We've been told in the past that chemical weapons were indeed used in Syria, but it wasn't clear who fired them and who was on the receiving end. But now we know, courtesy of the New York Times, which is now reporting Syrian forces used chemical weapons on Syrian rebels, citing U.S. and European officials officially concluding that. More to come on that, but let's bring in our panel. CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger, CNN contributor and Democratic strategist Hillary Rosen, and CNN contributor and former senior advisor to Mitt Romney, Kevin Madden. This Syria news fills into something I already wanted to ask you guys about, which is that behind closed doors, Bill Clinton had some rather interesting things to say about President Obama contemplating military action in Syria. According to Politico, speaking last night at an event with John McCain, Clinton repeatedly said it would be lame to blame a lack of intervention in Syria on opposition in polls or among members of Congress. And he said, quote, if you refuse to act and you've caused a calamity, the one thing you cannot say when all the eggs have been broken is, oh, my God, 2 years ago there was a poll that said 80% of you were against it. You'd look like a total wuss. And you would be. Now, I'm not going to ask you, Kevin, to define what a wuss is. But although this is the first time I've ever heard a president use the term.
One, right?
But that's some pretty tough talk from President Clinton for President Obama.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like a schoolyard taunt. But in this case, you know, Bill Clinton, whether it's with the, diplomatic audiences or with Hill audiences and political audiences in general, he's seen as like the cool kid on the schoolyard. And he's not somebody who you want going out there and shaping perceptions. People look to him for his opinion. He's not somebody that you want to go out there shaping your opinions in a negative way. Now, the president's been very cautious here, and I think he's going to continue to have a lot of folks who have experience on these issues continue to question whether or not that caution is the right approach as a result.
This was allegedly an off-the-record session in which he was sitting with John McCain, who is, of course, for arming the Syrian rebels. You know about those off-the-record sessions. Given the Romney campaign, there is no such thing.
But somebody recorded it and provided it to Maggie Haberman with Politico, and so she was able to quote it directly.
And so I think what he was doing is speaking as a president emeritus, saying, you know what, you can't look at the polls, and so what if Congress isn't with you on it, which is easy to do, of course, when you're not president anymore. No. But looking at it through the prism of 2016, we know that his wife, Hillary Clinton, was for arming the rebels in some limited way last summer, and that got stopped in its tracks. She was on the side of General Petraeus and Leon Panetta. That got stopped in its tracks. So the question you ask is he
and also, Gloria, who was he standing next to when he was there? John McCain. He's making a case that McCain's made himself.
It's a little unfair, though, of President Clinton to say that President Obama isn't doing being more aggressive because of polls, because that's not really the case. It's actually kind of complicated what you do and how you can get there.
As Clinton knows from not intervening in Rwanda,
that's right.
Which is
took a long time for the Balkans intervention.
And sometimes those lessons are valid, and sometimes they aren't. But it is interesting going forward. Who was one of the officials in the Clinton administration when he made what he now calls his biggest foreign policy regret in not intervening in Rwanda? Susan Rice, who is now going to be President Obama's national security advisor coming up. And it'll be interesting to see if we have this subtle shift. And, Bill Clinton, I think, is always also good at riding a wave of policy.
I want to turn to
when things move, he knows when they're moving. And I think they were kind of already moving anyway.
I want to turn to some controversy on the Hill this week. During a House Judiciary hearing on a bill, Representative Trent Franks of Arizona said he opposes an exemption for rape victims for abortion who are seeking abortion because, quote, the incidence of rape resulting in pregnancy are very low. That's not a medical fact, and I'm not sure where he gets that information. But that was something that a lot of liberals and Democrats jumped upon. And then today, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi ripped into a reporter from the Weekly Standard who was asking her about the same bill, framing the debate in terms of the case of Dr. Kermit Gosnell from Philadelphia. If we have that sound, let's play Nancy Pelosi.
What is the moral difference between what Dr. Gosnell did to a baby born alive at 23 weeks and aborting her moments before birth?
Okay, you're probably enjoying that question a lot. I can see you savoring it. But let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this. What was done in Philadelphia was reprehensible, and everybody condemned it. For them to decide to disrespect a judgment a woman makes about her reproductive health is reprehensible.
Hillary?
You know, the Republicans thought they have this big sort of gotcha moment with this terrible murderer in Philadelphia, which is completely irrelevant. And the farther down the road they go on this, as a political analyst for Democrats, great. Keep going down that road. Because President Obama won women by, you know, over 11 points in this last election. We're trying to figure out what our value add is going to be as we go into 2014. House Republicans, go at it. Keep saying stupid things about women, and, you know, we're going to do better. But as a woman, I just find it offensive and frustrating that we cannot seem to get men who are in policy-making positions to understand how personal this feels when you hear elected officials talk that way.
Well, look, I think it's a real big mistake for Republicans to allow ourselves to get baited into having this debate through the lens of something like rape. I mean, rape is a terrible, horrible crime. Do not try to talk about it in any other term other than that. Yeah. And when you talk about why you're pro-life and what your pro-life beliefs are, talk about it not in terms of statistics or what you believe some doctor told you. Instead, talk about it in terms of why you believe a sanctity of life is an important public policy position. And I think that's the big mistake. And you know, Democrats and I think the media will always be aligned with a more pro-choice viewpoint. And the standard is much higher for us. So we have to be smarter about how we talk about it.
Gloria, last word.
I just look at Nancy Pelosi as a politician, and I'll say she stuck to what she wanted to her point that she wanted to make. She dodged the question. She talked about the Republican Party and said, there you go again.
All right.
And it worked for her.
Kevin Madden, Hillary Rose, and Gloria Borger, thank you so much.